Warren Gatland's coming on. Ooh. And the most important thing we need to talk about before we see him is the fact that he's had a gate named after him at the Principality.
Yeah, that was named after him when he left in 2019, the Gatland Gate.
Gatland's Gate.
It's the entrance to the stadium.
Yeah. And who else at the? I mean, surely Gareth Edwards. Gareth Edwards got a train named after him. I know that.
Oh yeah.
He's also got a statue in the middle of Cardiff in St David's shopping centre.
Wow. Martin Offiah has a statue at Wembley, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Didn't you have a tunnel underneath the Principality called the Shanklin Shaft, or did you make that up?
I actually have a rugby pitch named after me, which is at school at Ampleforth, which is unusual because I only lasted 4 years there.
I was going to say you started but didn't finish.
I didn't do a full innings, but
mistaken identity.
20 years later, I had a phone call from my headmaster. He said, "Lawrence," he said, "can I meet you for lunch?" I thought, oh, he wants something clearly. So I took him to Reva in Barnes, and he said, "We've got a bit of a problem with our rugby pitch. It's flooded." I said, Father Dominic, I said, the Lord has a funny way of asking for money, doesn't it? So I said, you've clearly followed my career. They wanted £75,000. So I actually organised a dinner. I took Jason Leonard up there, Damien Hopley and a few other legends, and we raised 100 grand. So
great.
The pitch is now called the Dallaglio match ground.
Did you get to keep the extra 25? No. At the Rec in Bath, I was actually down there commentating on a game a few weeks ago, and after the game, I went up into one of the boxes for a pint with some mates. And I walked into the box, and Greg James was in there, the Radio 1 DJ. His dad's a season ticket holder, always down there. Parents are lovely, he's a lovely man, and he's in there. So having a nice chat, getting a pint organised, and Becky from corporate at Bath, who is a legend, walks in, and she's like, "Right, Flats, you've got to come with me and sign your door." So I said, "What door are we talking about?" And turns out corporate box number 1 has actually got "I'm on the door." It's me and Gareth Chilcott, Cooch, legendary Bath Lucid. We're on the door, and I said, "I'll come and do that." And she said, "Greg, you've got to come and watch him sign his door." And I said, "Greg, you do not have to come and watch me sign my door. You're having a lovely day off. You're safely in a box. You're not going to get mobbed." She said, "No, he's coming." She'd had a drink, I think. He's coming. So she forced Greg to come.
What?
Greg had to come. She forced Greg to come with us, and poor old Greg James, the actual celeb in this situation, is standing there taking photos of me signing my door. So slightly bizarre. But I suppose I've got
Flats. I mean, I suppose at Twickenham there's a brick named after every player that's played for England. I think.
I don't have a brick.
I think you must have a brick.
Do you not?
No, I have nothing.
Nothing?
Not a single thing.
Oh, mate.
Wasn't sure whether he was speaking English or Welsh, but he asked me outside for a fight. And there was a moment when I thought, I can win this. I kind of felt inside of Wales from a media perspective, who's got my back? Huge amount of time for Marcus Smith. I just think he's an exceptional player. You've got to find somewhere, he's got to be in the squad.
Off the record, Gats, how much resentment have you got towards Sam Warburton?
In the 18 years I played rugby, the 3 years that we spent together, that never got any better than that.
Best player you've coached?
Ooh.
Good one.
It's a great story, isn't it? So, there's a part of me wished he got away with it.
When I was at Wasps and you were at Saracens, I thought he was shit. How long do you reckon it take to eat all of them, one person? They're tough. Donuts are tough to eat.
I reckon 15 minutes.
Well, am I allowed a glass of milk with it?
I reckon 3. You could
Glass
do.
of milk?
3?
Yeah, before you get full.
No, you could demolish all of those.
I've got a strong grip. I could make those donuts that big each.
Yeah, but they've got fillings inside, haven't they?
Yeah, but to get them all in before they expand.
Was that where you attacked it? Squish them?
Crush.
All right, we'll have a new episode, Man Against Food.
Crush and flip. Crush and flip. All right, Gats? We've been talking about how many donuts could you do in one go.
The reason I've bought them because I've invested in those.
I know, I hear.
Yeah, right. Should we get the plug in?
We're all going to have to try them now, aren't we?
I'm excited. Do you
Half
have a
the
knife?
calories than anything else.
Right.
Air fried. Healthy.
Oh, they're air fried donuts, are
Yeah,
they?
healthy, no sugar.
Right.
What's the business called, Gats?
I don't know.
Come on, mate.
I believe it's called Urban Legends Donuts.
Yeah.
And
I'll try one
I think
then.
you're a co-investor with Harry Kane.
That's true, true, yeah.
So you've got 22 major trophies between you, basically.
Yeah.
So,
What are you saying, he's got bugger all of it?
well, I mean, he's got to win a trophy this year at Bayern Munich, but yeah. But anyway, you're co-investors. And
All right, aren't they?
Yeah. That's a good bake, Gats. Nice and moist.
How would you end up with a business with Harry Kane?
Oh, I don't know, just...
Got an email.
It's one of those things you want to invest in, and someone said Harry Kane was going into it, and then had a little bit of cash.
It was one of those spam emails came through.
Well, listen.
I spoke to my accountant, and he said, what the hell are you doing? You're wasting your money. But they've been good. It's going really well. And
How many bites? You've had 2 bites. It's nearly all gone.
Yeah.
They're very light, though, aren't they? Yeah, very light.
Yeah. Well, Gats doesn't invest in, he doesn't get too many things wrong, so no doubt they're good.
Oh, very nice, those.
Okay, can we start now?
Yeah.
Go on, Flats, do the welcome, please.
Welcome, everybody.
We'll ease you in, because Katie's got a few little quick-fire questions that we always like to have with all of us.
Just going to warm you up.
Yeah, but the boys haven't established what Quickfire is, so I've got high hopes for you.
okay.
It hasn't got to be that quick, mate.
Who introduced you to rugby, and what was the first club you played for?
My father took me to the local rugby club when I was 5 years of age, and the club was called Eastern Suburbs, black and white hoops.
Nice. Your favourite player growing up?
Grant Batty.
Oh, great shout.
Oh, no.
Great shout.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, come on.
I'm sorry.
Sort of the All Blacks equivalent of Shane Williams.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But harder. He was harder, I always thought.
He was tough.
You always have those players you look up to and want to model yourself on, then you realise that physics doesn't quite allow you to.
Well, I don't know. Shane offered Gats out once, so...
Oh, did he?
It's a true story. Yeah. The first game when we beat England,
Here we go.
2008,
I'll put them down, son.
we're on the bus on the way back. Boys obviously hadn't won in Twickenham for 20 years, celebrating. And on the way over, I'd stopped in Dubai, and I was interviewed, and I just said, look, I was going to train the boys really hard, and if I break a few of them, then so be it. I think Shane, it was a dumb thing for me to say. Shane took a little bit of exception, and then towards the end of the night, Shane was talking to me, and I wasn't sure whether he was speaking English or Welsh. But I did. But he asked me outside for a fight.
That's how to get on with your coach, isn't it?
The biggest win we ever had.
Yeah. And there was a moment when I thought, I can win this.
Watch off, is it?
A few of the boys talking to me, and he woke up, he couldn't remember a thing, and he came in and apologised. I said, mate, look, we had a great night.
The next one is the moment that changed your career. That could have been the one if you had said yes.
Yes, yeah, there could have been. The moment that changed my career.
Yeah.
Oh. I'll tell you the moment that changed probably finishing with Ireland and going to Wasps. I'm a great believer in what will be will be. I never plan for anything. I've never had a rugby agent in terms of doing contract stuff. I've done them all myself all over the years, and loved my time in Wasps and living in London and that experience. And yeah, it was a big change for me. Yeah.
Best player you've coached?
Best Welsh player, Shane Williams.
Nice.
The best player I ever coached, Silavini Sivivatu.
Good one.
All that incredibly intelligent rugby player. He was amazing in terms of full speed, being able to step and stuff. Some of the tries he scored, and he was exceptional.
And then the player you wish you had have coached? Is there anybody out there?
Yeah. Wouldn't mind coaching someone like DuPont at the moment, would you? So,
Yeah, you wouldn't say no.
Yeah.
Toughest day as a coach?
Oh, toughest day as a coach. Oh, there's always some tough days. Any days where you lose, it's those are always the toughest days. They're the days when you go home and it hurts for 2 or 3 days in terms of So.
And then best piece of advice you've been given?
Don't take yourself too seriously, I think. I think.
Said for that.
Yeah.
How do you relax away from rugby? Do you?
Yeah, I don't play a lot of golf in the Northern Hemisphere, but when I go back to New Zealand, I enjoy playing a little bit of golf.
You do a spot tiling on the roof, don't you? When you
Yeah,
relax?
I know.
Sorry to bring that up.
Bit of fishing at the beach. We get a bit of fishing. I enjoy a bit of fishing, and sometimes going to go to Cheltenham on Friday this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. So I enjoy having.
Any little tips for us?
I haven't got any tips. I'm hoping you might be able to give me a few.
Got any horses? Have you got any horses?
Later at lunch, maybe.
I haven't got any horses. I had a share in some horses, but I'm out of them now.
Change for donuts.
I must tell a little story about Gats. When we were coaching at Wasps, and I don't know if you remember this, Gats, but I got cited and banned for...
never.
Only once in my career. I can't quite believe it. It was a case of mistaken identity, but I think I punched Julian White Anyway, I was banned for a game, and the game was Leicester away. And I think I came up to him and I said, Gats, would it be okay if I don't think I should come up on the bus today to Welford Road? He said, well, you're captain, you know, it'd be good for you to support the team. And then he looked at me and I went, yeah, I've got horse running at Sandown with Frankie Dettori on board. He said, is it going to win? I said, it's got a very good chance. He said, okay, go and watch it. Have a good day. And do you know what? It did win. And so did we.
Finally, please could you tell us at what point you found out about Andy Powell's golf buggy trip down the M4?
I found out at half-time the next day, because at that time, I was talking to Shanks earlier, the boys used to go into Cardiff. They don't do that anymore, but and we used to have security guys looking after them to make sure they kept out.
There was only a few though, wasn't there?
There was only a few who used to go into Cardiff, and it was an absolute nightmare. So on the Sunday morning, I had a debrief, and with Alan Phillips, the team manager, and security guys. Any issues? No issues there. Go home, and it was a Sunday. England were playing Italy in Rome, and at half-time, John Inverdale, just, you know, I wasn't really listening to the half-time. He said, last night, Andy Powell, the Welsh number 8, was arrested for driving a buggy down the M4. I didn't really I sort of heard it in the background. Anyway, the second half started, and it sort of started to gnaw out, and I'd left my phone in the car in the basement, and I thought, I better go and get my phone. And I picked up my phone, 45 missed calls. I know we're in trouble.
Did he give you a slightly different version of events when you spoke to him about it? Because presumably he was the first guy, and you know, you hope he gave you the truth. But can you remember the explanation he gave?
There was not really any excuse when you're driving the buggy. And then, I think he had a mate for him.
He did.
I was surprised the mate didn't take the rap for him. Anyway, so it's a great story, isn't it? So there's a part of me wished he got away with it.
I want to know when you find out about it and it all kicks off, and eventually you're in the same room as Andy Powell. When you walk in, are you angry? Have you zoomed out a bit and let's just deal with it? Is there a bit of you that's laughing on the inside? Like, where are you?
A bit of everything. Yeah. You kind of. You're being serious and you're thinking, oh my God, we've just had a great win over Scotland, you know, and he's had a night out. He's done something absolutely stupid, and then you just got to say, look, we're going to have to suspend you for a few games for the rest of.
It was after a pack of darts, wasn't he?
Yeah, but you can't tell him off because he's just like a big child. Remember the first cap you gave him, 2008, and it was against South Africa. And like never been capped before, obviously. We had the South Africa national anthem, and then there's a little change then while they changed the, sort of the hymn sheets and the music sheets. And during that period, it's about 5 seconds, and we stood up for the anthems. And bear in mind, never been capped before, not that much experience, and all I can hear from him is, "Here it comes, boys, here it comes." Because no one's speaking for the anthem. And he won man of the match that day. Did he? Yeah. It was incredible, honestly.
Yeah. He had so much potential. I remember I saw him play for Cardiff and at the Arms Park, and I can't remember who was the game, it was a club game, and he just tore everyone. He was running through, and I went, oh my God, where's this guy? You know, where's he come from? And we brought him into the squad, and he was one of those players, look, brilliant in the team. You turned around at half-time and said, we're playing this way now. Sort of terrible on line-out calls. He was, he could never get the line-out calls the other stadium and stuff like that. We went on the Lions in 2009, and all the feedback from the other players was what a brilliant roommate he was. He would go in there, he'd make sure everything was there. He'd make his roommate tea or coffee, he'd make sure all the bags are all... They thought he was amazing like that. Yeah.
I roomed with him in Portugal on a golfing trip, and he went to bed a little bit earlier than me, which is a real surprise. And he said, "Do you want any room service?" I said, "Oh yeah, just get me something, will you? I'll be back soon." I ended up coming back about half hour later. He ordered me soup. Like there's just soup on my bed. I was like, that's the worst thing. I had to drink cold tomato soup.
Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
We're going to talk about Six Nations now, just the weekend just gone. Did you see the French win coming?
yeah, I definitely thought they had a good chance. It's just one of those games. You know, in Ireland, the first 15 minutes dominated territory and possession, weren't able to score. I thought France defended exceptionally well. It was an excellent performance. I mean, the thing about that is I was looking at it afterwards, and I was thinking, probably leading into the game, if you're looking at a Lions squad, you're probably thinking 15, 17, 18, maybe 19.
Yeah, it's changed the picture.
19 Irish players really got a good chance of making the Lions squad, so maybe a few of them that might have.
Yeah.
Gats, do you know the one that stood out for me was actually not on the pitch, was a man that you know very well, who you've brought to Wasps or worked with Wasps, was Sean Edwards, because I've just felt defensively the first 20 minutes was like the Alamo. I mean, literally the French were, and normally they'd be giving away penalty after penalty, and I just thought that set the tone for the rest of the game, really.
Defence and discipline as well. You know, one of the things about you mentioned that about France is, you keep the ball in phases, and you're likely to get penalties and stuff. And they've been so much better recently, and they've realised how important it is keeping penalties down and not giving letting teams have sort of easy entries into your half and that. So I thought they defended exceptionally well, and then they took the chances and. A little bit risky with a 7-1 bench and stuff.
On that, I mean, does it feel as big a gamble? Does it look as big a gamble to you as it does?
And is it right? And is it right? Because Gregor Townsend's questioned it. A lot of coaches question it.
Yeah, it depends on how. There's a lot of ways to look at it. It depends on how physical and how tough your backs are. I mean, in the past we never could have done that with Wales, particularly if someone like Shanks was playing, because you never know he's going to break down or something.
Exactly, mate. Exactly, mate.
Yeah.
Fragile.
Unleaded.
Yeah, I think
wasn't a diesel.
You got to look at the physicality of backs. How can they play through 80 minutes? But the thing is, the scary thing is when you're looking at, you're only asking forwards to play 40 minutes. So now you're talking about 140, 145. Massive forwards coming on and having a huge impact. Because they've only been asked to play 30 minutes.
That's before they lied about their weight.
As well. It's your back row as well, because if there is more than one injury in the backs, then one of your back row bases is going to have to come in probably to the centres.
Well, we saw Jagu play 12, we saw Ben Earl play 12 at the weekend.
I suppose the argument against it is, does it lead to more concussions when you've got big units coming on in the last 30 minutes of a game?
Yeah.
And, where guys are fatigued and they're having to tackle massive players. I mean, maybe World Rugby would look at limiting it. I don't know.
I think I could be wrong. I think the data suggests that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And actually having fresh players on, because the other side of it is that there are fewer exhausted people on the field, and you're more likely to get injured when you're exhausted. So
you tackle up right.
Yeah. So it goes. I think it isn't. The data suggests it isn't more dangerous, but there's I think there's a spirit of the game argument, but it seems to be, Gats, that the people that don't like it tend to be the teams that don't have loads of massive units knocking around on street corners.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, it's nothing against the laws at the moment. I mean, with someone like DuPont, he can go and play anywhere in the back line. So if you want to make a change, so you're having players that are versatile. I think the biggest thing that's going to have an impact on the Six Nations is going to be when they change. I think next year they go to 3 weeks with a 1 week fallow week and then 2 games, and then the following week it's 5 weeks in a row. Now, France and England are going to be able to cope with that. Probably Ireland. I think Wales and Scotland are going to struggle massively, and Italy to put 5 games in a row.
The old tournament, when it was played over a longer period of time, I think in 2003 we used 36 players in the across the games, 5 games, where. When you're going back to back to back 5 weeks in a row, that's a huge ask, isn't it? Really, you talked about Lions shifting in the selection that Andy Farrell might have. I think there was, none so was that more evident than maybe in the fly half position.
It's going to be really hotly contested, isn't it? In terms of that, I thought Finn Russell was excellent when he was on the weekend. Just as his game management has improved massively from where it was a number of years ago in terms of his decision making. I think Finn Smith's been really good since he's come into that position for England. He's sort of steadied it. I got a huge amount of time for Marcus Smith. I just think he's an exceptional player. You've got to find somewhere. He's got to be in the squad. He can cover a number of positions. And then you've got Prendergast and Crowley, and then I don't know what the story with Owen as well, Owen Farrell. George Ford as well, he's incredibly experienced and talented and a player who controls the game wonderfully well. It's going to depend on what what way they want to play. I think don't underestimate Australia. Everyone's expecting that the Lions are going to go down there and win 3-0. And if looking at Super Rugby and looking at now that the Rebels have gone, they've got down to 4 teams, so the players aren't so spread out amongst the 5 teams. They're doing a hell of a lot better in Super Rugby than they were for the last 2 or 3 years. I think they're going to be okay.
Just talking about Scotland-Wales, Gats, Matt Sharrett sort of got an immediate reaction from the Wales team, which you kind of expect to bounce from a new coach, but they still lost the game. What was your view on how the last game went against Scotland? I mean, you were blown away for the first 50 minutes.
Scotland
35-8.
Yeah, Scotland really dominated that first sort of 40, 50 minutes, and then sometimes when it's like that, as players, you think, oh, the game's won. They make changes, they lose a bit of continuity. Guys coming on off the bench for Wales see as an opportunity to go and make an impact, and they did that, and they played some good rugby in the second half, but definitely the game's gone.
We didn't kick particularly well, I think, first half. Scotland won the battle of the air. I think Kinghorn was really good. Tackle technique as well. There was a couple of tackles, one on Van der Merwe. I think he handed off Ellis Mee. And then when Blair Kinghorn scored, sometimes you just got to nail him low. You can't stay upright and try and knock the Fen down. And you look at the Blair Kinghorn try. He runs in from about 10 metres because I don't think Anscombe goes low enough. I think in that situation you've got to tackle him low. But 35-8, I mean, Scotland did switch off. There's no doubt about that. Subs came on. But I think the positives are that it could have been, at one stage, I think a lot of people think it might be 50. Yeah. But they came back and they scored a couple of nice tries, and they'll try and take the positives from that. What's it like for you watching?
I thought Jared Evans was
good. He was.
I thought he played flatter to the line. I thought they were a little bit deep.
But you didn't really involve him in the squads.
No, I'd watched him play, and we had a lot of discussion about him as a player. I have been impressed with his attacking game. Probably the negatives have been around his kicking game in the past. So it was quite funny because that I finished, and I look at the team and look at the team that they picked against Ireland. So for me, my whole thought process wasn't about now, and Matt's got that luxury. He's just thinking about now and the
well, he's out after, isn't he?
Yeah, the first 3 games, and he's bought players. And my whole thing is how do we get back into a cycle again where we're thinking about the World Cup? So if I looked at the team that probably, if I was involved in selection, I would have started Dan Edwards at 10, stayed with Eddie James at 12, probably Joe Roberts would have been at 13, would have been probably the same back 3.
Are you surprised then that the new coach went to players that you didn't pick to get an immediate reaction because maybe he felt that they had a point to prove, like Anscombe and Max Llewellyn?
Yeah, I think he's got relationship with those players, and he thinks that they can make a big difference. That's completely his prerogative to do that. I just said because he's on a different mindset in terms of what he's trying to do, and like I said, our whole thought process was, coming in. What people didn't even think we would get out of our group in the World Cup. We've won the group. I've got to go into the job and thinking, honestly, what is the best decision long term for Welsh rugby? How do we get to 2027 where we've got some experience, we've got some depth in certain positions, knowing that you get 3 or 4 months together in a World Cup cycle where you can do the training, the depth, the detail that's needed. It's the one time that you feel like you're working with a club side when you go into World Cup camps and World Cup preparation. Do you think thinking about the World Cup though is too far away? Because often you're thinking about next World Cup, when realistically we probably aren't in the greatest sort of position to win a World Cup. If you think about previously what's gone on, is it more about the here and now that maybe need to be thought about rather than 2.5 years time? Yeah, at the moment, and that's perfectly understandable. I'm really proud of what we have achieved in World Cups. We've made 2 World Cup semi-finals that have gone right down to the wire, and we've missed out in 2 quarter-finals, one against South Africa and one against that were sort of could have gone either way as well. But if you think about it, so when I'd look at it and go, you've got a World Cup squad and you're thinking, okay, 70, 80% of them can hopefully be there for the next cycle. So after the World Cup, a few players drop off. The transition becomes easy coming in, and then you lose some players on the way, and so the transition's easy in there. And the Six Nations is really important, and then you've got the summer tour where you can hopefully build some strength and depth and give players an opportunity. You can do the same in the autumn, and then you go into Six Nations again, which is a really important competition. But after France, when you lose 18 players within your squad, it's going to take a little bit of time to replace that strength and depth. And that was my whole thought process on where we were. And like I said, I had to be true to myself and thinking, Warren, this is not about you. This is not about what you're trying to do. If you honestly believe that building this team to get them in the best possible shape for the World Cup, then you've got to stick by your principles. And that's exactly what I was doing. Because, look, I've done okay in rugby. I'm not in there trying to think, I've got to protect my job and I've got to worry about my family and all those sorts of things. No. I can make different decisions. And
do you wish your role was slightly different then? Because when you speak, and we spoke to Eddie Jones a little bit about this, around a bit more of a football model, you have your coach and staff, but you have your performance director, and all the things you're talking about there are like longer term strategy. They're not, like you were chatting about there, Shanks, about the day to day, because ultimately that's what you're kind of judged on in your head coach role. You're judged on results. But actually when you talk there, you talk about the longer term view of Welsh rugby. Do you think if you could go back and you could have like the oversight and be in charge of developing the future, does that interest you, or do you want to be on the ground coaching?
Well, no, I think you've always got an interest in that, and probably when I left in 2019 and having come back, I was taken back by probably all the systems and structures that have been put in place and how they'd basically pretty much gone fallen away, and the planning and the preparation that had gone in during those different cycles. A lot of people, players are not probably aware of those discussions that you're having and the planning that you're doing behind the scenes, and what's your thought process around different campaigns and things. But look, I've loved my time in Wales. The people I've met, the friends I've made, the fans been amazing. They're incredibly passionate. And the biggest thing that I want to happen, and I've been cheering like mad for them the last couple of games, is I want to get them, for them to get back to hopefully where they can be. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of the pathways, the 20s program. We got rid of the National Academy, which I think was a mistake in 2015. Wales under 21, the Grand Slam in 2016. And since 2017, they haven't finished above fourth in the Six Nations. Now that's 8 years where they haven't finished above fourth, and those are the players that come through to the senior squad. And we were saying for a long time, we're just plugging the dam here, with the success that we're having. We're papering over the cracks, and when the dam bursts, it's going to take a while to.
So with that in mind, Gats, when you, in hindsight, we'll talk about your first stint as Welsh coach, which was incredible. When you decided to come back again, what was the reason for that? If you'd have known what you knew now about the structures that maybe had fallen away, would you have still? Was it an emotional decision that brought you back?
Yeah, it was emotional. Yeah, it was kind of like I did have some other options and stuff, but when you've put your heart and soul in something for such a long time, and it really means a lot to you. So look, that first Six Nations was tough. Like I said, we had that time together for the World Cup in France. And a lot of people were writing us off saying we wouldn't get out of a group. We've ended up winning the group. We had a great performance against Australia and stuff. And then, like I said, you lose all those players, and you're thinking, we're in a little bit of trouble. It's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take a little bit more time for them to develop some strength and depth, to put, like I said, put the resources into the academies and the pathways and the 20s program, and get good people involved, good coaches, experienced coaches to bring these young players through.
I think you did an interview a few months after you came back, and to paraphrase, I might be not completely accurate, to paraphrase, you said, if I'd known then what I know now, I might have made a different decision about coming back. Did you mean that, or was that a throwaway comment?
No. It was kind of like, there's a lot of work to do, you know, and you need planning and stuff, and you need the regions and the union working close together. There's still a deal that hasn't been.
No, it's not been done, is it?
It hasn't been done, and I can remember having a conversation with going out for lunch with Abby Tierney, the new CEO, and she said, "Oh, the deal's been done. I've spoken to all the regions individually, and that's really, really close to be." And this is 6 or 7 months ago, and I went, "Abby," I said, "I'm telling you now, from my experience, you think that deal's going to be done. When it comes to the day it's to be signed, there'll be something that'll stop it from being done." And it's still not.
There's no review. So we had a review, but there's no review come out yet because they can't, because the regions haven't signed a deal. So we don't know what the plan is for the future at the moment.
And what's the strategy?
You said earlier on, Gats, that you know, losing is probably the hardest thing to come to terms with, and you know, you obviously had that. You know, it must get very, very kind of draining, really. I mean, I was watching you on TV, and I'm thinking, that's not the Gats I know. You know, you're sat in the box, and you're thinking, how am I? You know, you obviously talk about. You knew what was happening with the players and this agreement off the field, which a lot of people don't really understand. But you're trying to make an impact and change the course of a game. And you know, listen, defeat is puts a lack of confidence in anyone, in any group. Did you just feel at the end, whatever I do here, it's not really having the impact that we want it to have?
Yeah,
and you're getting hammered for it as well.
And I think that's the thing. I looked at it and thought there's so much negativity around the game directed towards the team. To me personally, and I'm okay with it and directed to the union. So it was the best decision was, can I step away from that to take a little bit of pressure off the players and the union as well for a period, just to. And then that focus can be on me and give them a chance just to have a little bit of a reset and see what they can do. So it was, I probably was the first time that I've gone into games with a bit of trepidation, thinking, you know, you always get nervous before games, and you always, nervous about the performance, the results. But it was the first time I was going, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying? And that's probably why I ended up making the decision.
You sort of had opinions coming from everywhere. So you had players whom you'd coached and with whom you'd had great success in both ways. Not necessarily Shanks, but let's pin it on him. But you had guys.
Let's make it awkward.
Let's just blame it all on Jamie Roberts, even though it wasn't.
I've got a message from Mike Phillips.
But you know, you've got players, ex-players of yours, making comments that and that you didn't like, and there's a little bit of, it wasn't quite a spat, but there's back and forth there, and I just wonder how. There are certain things you just know you're going to get in a job like that from the media. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny on you. But actually, did that, to coin a modern phrase, did that hit a bit different when those guys... Do you think they were out of order in a sense, or just doing their job?
A little bit of both. It was kind of like, I understand when you're losing games and the expectation is about winning. And no one understands better than me about international rugby is about performance and results, and when you're not, you've got to take that criticism on the chin. What I did feel a little bit, and I did struggle with, I kind of felt not outside of Wales, but I felt inside of Wales from a media perspective, or I said, who's got my back? I didn't feel like there was one person who went, hang on, look at. I didn't feel like someone had my back, and that to me was the hardest thing that I found. That it wasn't a journalist, it wasn't someone within Wales or someone going, who's got my back, because that's sometimes. When you've been involved in sport a few times, you kind of you feel like, come on, where's a little bit of support there?
And this leads us on to my next question. Has it changed now? Is it a different interaction over 17, 18 years that you can have with the playing group? Because it feels like it is. Or maybe
definitely in the way that things have.
Maybe can't be quite as honest as you were with me.
Can't be as honest, or with Shanks. Yeah, when I told him he was. That I thought he was rubbish when he played for Saracens.
You didn't say rubbish. You said,
no.
when I was at Wasps and you were at Saracens, I thought he was shit. fact, we used to target you.
That was the speech I gave him for his 50th cap.
Yeah.
But I did praise him and say how well he had done and
How much he improved.
How much he improved.
I think what I'm trying to say is, are the players a little bit more sensitive now to criticism, and therefore you have to be a little bit more careful with how you address players?
Yeah, we become. I think there was a period where we've become so woke and we were so afraid of what we said and stuff. But sport, not just rugby, sport is hard and it is tough and it's not always enjoyable. And you've got to be mentally tough. You've got to have resilience, and it almost became it wasn't the right thing to talk about. Oh, you need mental toughness, you need resilience, you need to be there. So, but I think that balance is starting to come back a little. People realise actually we went too far one way.
When you started coaching Ireland, you were only 34 years of age. That is incredibly young to coach an international team. And obviously, you know, your playing career, you did a bit of teaching, did you, I think?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just talk us, I mean, were you kind of surprised that you suddenly, via Galwegians, you end up being head coach of Ireland at the age of 34?
So I was in the second year with Connacht, and Brian Ashton was coaching Ireland, and Ireland lost at home to Scotland, the first game of the Six Nations, and he resigned. I got a phone call on the Sunday saying, do you want to, or was it Five Nations actually, do you want to coach Ireland for the remainder of the Five Nations? So, 34 is young and inexperienced, but sometimes in life, and people give you those opportunities, you know, you don't sort of walk away from those chances. And then I ended up, you know, doing 4 years, and probably was at that real starting point. We had someone like Craig White who dealt with, who was involved with the S&C, and it was a real sea change in terms of Ireland going through that professional era. Because they didn't start in the professional era when everyone else did in '95. They took a couple of years before.
Oh right.
Yeah.
The obvious sort of what sticks out about that era, I think, would be sort of the emergence of someone like Brian O'Driscoll, who turned into an icon. How much credit are you taking for his success?
All of it.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said.
No, I saw this young kid, and it was actually two players I saw. Obviously O'Driscoll, the other one was Darcy. Darcy was still at school, and I wanted to take him to South Africa on a tour while he was still at school. But he decided to stay and do his exams, and they probably. So there was some real young talent coming through, and a real change into that professional environment.
What are your memories of Gats coming to Wasps, and how did he turn maybe Wasps around?
Well, I think the memories are, I mean, Sean Edwards was already there, but we were struggling. I think I'd had an ACL reconstruction, and Gats, what I realised very quickly is he's quite shrewd at making decisions around when you take a job, because we were 7th in the table. And we finished bottom. We finished this. Well, we was bottom, but we ended up finishing that season. So he didn't actually take over straight away. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you know, we're a much better side than what the results had showed. We had a lot of players injured, including myself, and I knew in Sean Edwards that we had a bit of a nugget there. But I think Gat's greatest strength, and I'll say this in front of him, was that your superstar players in any team will always give you a performance you hope that, you know, like an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, and occasionally just play out of this world. I think, you know, a team is only as good as its lowest common denominator. And I think what he has had the exceptional ability to do is lift the performance of players who maybe are delivering 5 or 6 out of 10. You know, I wouldn't say journeyman club players, but good players. But he can actually deliver an environment and a group that will deliver you 8 or 9 out of 10, and then suddenly your performance across the board. And the other thing he did, you know, is one brought in, you know, changed the game. I mean, Clive did it for England to bring in Craig White and change the way that teams trained and the way, you know, I mean, you would often have disagreements with the fitness coach, and he said, right, no, we're finishing training.
Well, I was playing against you all the time in the league in those periods, and it was completely different. So we would play against Wasps, and it would be completely different from playing against any other team, because it seemed to be that you guys were more powerful than everyone else. And you had more power endurance than everyone else. And we would play against you for a couple of years, lose the big games against you. And then we would do what people did probably with the All Blacks for years, which was try and change our training to keep up with you, by which time you'd moved on and won the Prem again. So it was, and you won the Heineken Cup. So it was. Did you think about all that stuff in terms of this environment Lawrence talks about? Do you actively go in and think about the environment? This is exactly how my environment to look like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and then we're gonna. These are all the component parts.
Yeah, no. Look, there were some quality players there. I think one of the things that I'd learned, and having been lucky enough to coach in Ireland, being involved in international rugby, was that I saw a lot of coaches who didn't support the national team, and I felt for me that was the last thing that I could ever do. I wanted to be an All Black, and I'd be hypocritical. So I'd say to these guys, I'm going to do everything I can to get you in the England team and support you in any way that I can, because I see that as a big part of my role. And so we were pushing players, and we got players selected for England. And one of the things that Craig White said to me, which was there, he said, a lot of teams do this at the start of the season. They could do pre-season, they go like that, and then they go there, and then towards the end of there, and then they do another pre-season, they go like that. And he said, we're going to go this in pre-season, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do another conditioning block, and we'll go there, and then we'll do there, and we'll do another conditioning block. So we're fitter at the end of the season than we are at the start of the season. And that was all mapped out and planned. And something happened by mistake with England, actually, because at those times, Clive used to have those Monday and Tuesday sessions. I don't know if you remember this, Lawrence. So they'd have Monday and Tuesday sessions. So we'd be playing on a Sunday, so we'd be training Wednesday, and Thursday would be our day off. And we might have 7 or 8 players in with England. And I would say to them, well, if you've been training 2 hard days with England, there's no point coming in to us on a Wednesday. And then we've got Thursday off. So I'd say, take Wednesday off, have Thursday off. So the first day that they were back in with us was a Friday. And these guys would be with England, and the Leicester boys would be saying, oh, when are you back in? Oh, we don't have to be back until Friday. And the Leicester boys are winning. We've got to be in at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on Wednesday.
Yeah, I remember these conversations so clearly.
And it wasn't planned. And all of a sudden, there was this sort of... it was like, oh, the Wasps boys have been looked after, especially. Yeah, we were looking after them, making sure we got the best out of them.
I've got to say, in the 18 years I played rugby, the 3 years that we spent together that never got any better than that. Yes, we won a lot of trophies, but it was just the best time I've ever had in my career.
Where does that rank for you in everything?
In terms of the fun as well.
Your time at Wasps.
Oh, it's right up there. It's kind of like...
Top?
Yeah, in terms of... We had such a good group of guys. We trained really hard, but we had some fun as well, and we enjoyed ourselves.
You move from Wasps to Wales. What do you arrive to there? So you go from this super successful environment where everything is sort of covered. What do you arrive to? What do you feel like you need to fix?
We weren't that fit, I don't think.
It was a fitness issue and just toughening up a little bit. And I don't remember if you remember, Shank. And I had no idea at this time. So when we started, the first couple of weeks, we trained the players incredibly hard. We pushed them really hard. And as coaches, we were saying things like, and I was saying, I said, no one's training harder than this. England aren't training this hard. I can promise you Ireland aren't training this hard. Scotland aren't training this hard. So, and we won that first game, and the next game, and no one's training harder than this. Now the coach, no one's training harder than this. No, get to the third game, I've stopped. These guys are going, no one's working harder than us. Yeah. I had no idea how I'd ever, but they believed it. They believed they were working harder than anyone else. They believed that.
And it led to a Grand Slam, right?
Yeah, exactly. I remember when he came in, and there's a few of us questioning, maybe the tactics, maybe the game plan. Do you think that maybe didn't come in the second period when you were there? There wasn't maybe enough senior players? Because when you first came in 2008 and you sort of said, this is how I want to attack. No, you don't stay on the short side. You've got to work hard and hard. And we sat there and we questioned you, saying, is this right? Is this what you want us to do?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you didn't have that in your second period a little bit?
Well, we didn't. We probably the game plan had changed and things, and the game keeps evolving and keeps changing. I've never worried about being questioned. I'm always been comfortable being questioned by other coaches and by players, and I will question that. Yeah, you've got to get a buy-in. You've got to get. I look back on that game we lost against Italy, and I look at that and I go, we went in there with a strategy that we were going to kick to compete, and when I look back on we had 18 kicks that went too far, and I just thought, at that level, it's just it's not good enough from that perspective. When you're with a team, you once or twice in a season where it has an impact, where you really lose it and have a real go at the team and the players, and it has an impact.
Yeah.
And probably this team at the moment, with the youngsters and it's not the right time to do that with this group of players, so.
But going back to the other group, was that the greatest Welsh team you've ever coached?
So 2011, the World Cup, that was probably our best chance of reaching a final, maybe winning it. Do you look back and think, what if that wasn't a red card?
Yeah, it wasn't, or the 20-minute red card.
Yeah.
It was probably the biggest game I'd been involved in terms of World Cup semi-final, and I'm sitting there the first 15, 70 minutes, and I went, we're going to win this game comfortably. That's 100% how I felt, and then all of a sudden, Sam gets sent off. I get up and kick the table over behind me, and thinking, okay, the way the game is, you get a red card, it's normally 20 or 30 points into it, and we hung in there. Mike Phillips scores a try. It's a conversion that you would normally expect Stephen Jones to kick. Yeah. 99 times out of 100 from the 15-metre line, pulls it to the left, and we hang in there, and Lee Halfpenny has a kick at the end of the game, and the ball just drops under the post.
Again, in his range, Jazz, wasn't it?
I think the most important question to come out of that game, I think now, is that, just off the record, Gats, how much resentment have you got towards Sam Warburton? Life could have been so different if it wasn't for that cheap shot.
Such an aggressive, violent player, isn't he?
Cheap shot, yeah.
But you made him captain, though.
Yeah.
At a young age.
Yeah.
Talk us through the thinking behind that, maybe the phone call you had with him. Because he was young, wasn't he? And inexperienced, maybe.
Really inexperienced, yeah.
As a captain and as a player.
Yeah, I think I looked at how do you pick someone who you think, if they're fit and playing well enough, are going to be selected.
That's why I didn't.
I looked at him a bit like McCaw. McCaw came in to the All Blacks as a young captain and took a little bit of time to grow into that role, and probably for me, the biggest thing is I can remember after a few games, and we'd had Southern Hemisphere referees, and I'd be talking to the referees afterwards, and they'd turned to me and said, Kaplan said, your seven is as good as anything, and he's as good as McCaw and Pocock over the ball. And I went, okay, I know we've got something here as an athlete, and that, we had Tips as an unbelievable rugby player. They're different types of rugby players, but that physicality when someone was over the ball and turnovers, that's what. And Sam was probably the first sort of breed of real professionals coming through, where some of those players would go through a campaign where they wouldn't drink at all. They'd have a good drink on the. Halfers was like that. End of a campaign. So that was that sort of real new breed coming through in that 2011 of those real sort of professionals.
You were good at picking sevens, Mike. You picked obviously Sam Warburton to be captain.
He didn't want to take the job.
No.
He
quite shy.
Quiet, shy, and he said, I haven't got the leadership skills and talking and stuff. And I went through a clip where we'd played a game and we defended our line really well, and he'd made a couple of tackles and he got up and he was celebrating. But his celebration, he was going up and he was whacking the guys on the backside, saying, "Well done, bang!" And that was his celebration. And I said, "Come and have a look at this." And I showed him. I said, "You're talking about leadership." And
that's it, mate.
That's leadership. It's not about just talking. You're showing leadership here and stuff. And I said, "You can do this job." And
you're a very good job. Who were the other players from that generation, that first team that stood out to you, the outstanding individuals in the Welsh team? Because you mentioned, obviously, we talked about Shane Williams, talked about Tips. Obviously, we mentioned Shacks and Dispense.
Shacks, yeah.
But who were the others that you would want to single out, or any?
Yeah, well, look, I've said, Mike Phillips was an unbelievable player in terms of the physicality and stuff, and he always had to be managed in that well. But 6'2", over 100 kgs as a player. He kind of was different. He could turn games in terms of bring that physicality and the confidence and self-belief that he had.
I was going to say, he'd be saying his name already himself, wouldn't he? At least apart from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's gold on a pitch. It's just that people use the word ego as an insult, but in sport it can be really useful. And someone like, playing against Mike Phillips was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And not just because playing against Danny Care's a nightmare, because he can do everything super confident. Mike Phillips could do everything super confident and relished beating you up. He is absolutely, So I thought actually it's a really interesting that you pick him, because Shane Williams is the obvious one. Alan Wynne-Jones, you might talk about an obvious one. Of all the players to play against, Mike Phillips from that generation would be the biggest nightmare for a big heavy forward, because Shane's largely over there. Alan Wynne is a nightmare, but you can sort of deal with him. Because as long as you go two at a time, and he's a big unit, so there's a lot to hit. Whereas Mike Phillips was genuinely very, very difficult to handle, even at the very top level, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he's quick, physical, a great pass on him, different big kicking game as well.
There's been certain players you've had to drop, like Mike Phillips being one, Adam Jones, maybe Jamie Roberts. You don't shy away from making big decisions. How tough is that for you? Because
Dricko as well on
Dricko as well, but you've got players that they want to reach like 100 caps and maybe it's close for them, but you haven't felt that they're right and you've had to make some big calls.
You've got to take sentiment away from it. You've got to just say, what are you making, what you think is the best decision. It doesn't mean you're always right. It doesn't mean you don't go back and question those decisions.
Has there been decisions that you thought, if you could go back now in hindsight, that maybe you would change?
There's always some of those. Yeah. I remember once when we selected you, and I knew it was the wrong call, but
there was no one else.
Yeah. No, look, I'm only joking, Shanks. The hardest thing is because I know as a player, I've been through that. I mean, I sat on the bench behind Sean Fitzpatrick for so many Test matches. In those days, it was only injury replacement. I never got on. For academy, I even had a number of games for the All Blacks. So I went to.
So you never capped for the All Blacks because you never got a cap.
Never got on for a Test.
And how many times were you on the bench?
20, 30 times. And I think for me is that there's been great players who aren't great coaches because sometimes they don't know why they have been great players. And so
they can just do it.
Yeah, they just do it. Everything's just natural and stuff, and they run certain lines, they go there and they support, but it's just the way they've come through. So I think it's that process and thinking all the time. So look, I know what it was like. In '91 we went to Argentina with the All Blacks and undefeated through there, and 6 weeks later they select the World Cup squad to go to, and the 6 guys sitting on the bench that day all missed out in the World Cup squad.
Did you not have to Sean Fitzpatrick voodoo doll? Was that
pretty ruthless of old Fitzy never to come off? He could have just done a hammy. Come on.
Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
Just as interestingly on that Lions, obviously Andy Farrell's going to be the coach, and he's about to announce, more and more coaches. Have you had any interaction in terms of, a handover in any way? Or spoken?
Yeah, 2 or 3 conversations with Andy, and he's rung me and said, "Just ring you up. What's your opinion on this?"
That's good.
He's been good.
You've taken him over there. You've got an experience of working with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an outstanding choice for that.
I think he'll do a great job. I think he'll do an outstanding job. When he finalised it, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. Talked about, asked him about how you're getting on with this. Expressed some of the frustrations that I had, and he's going through the same sorts of things. I was giving him a little bit of advice about how to work through some of those sorts of things. But I think the thing about the Lions, it's special. It's I've got a huge amount of admiration and just as a team, it's something we should do everything we can to protect as much as we can. Because to me, it's not. I think the Lions is bigger than the game. I think to me, it's a celebration of rugby, and we should protect it as much as we can. It's the bringing of the players from 4 nations together, playing away from home against one of the best teams in the world, and the expectation to win.
Who would be your captain, do you think?
I don't think he could go too far past Caelan Doris. I think if with Faz, if he's obviously got a good relationship with him, and he's picked him to lead Ireland, he's done a good job. So I think he would be the leading candidate at the moment. I think Murray's playing better rugby this year than he maybe has in the last couple of years. I think he's doing a good job for England and stuff. So, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he goes co-captains or. I think you want to pick someone who you want to lead the tour, and then have some other sort of vice captains maybe around them who can. And be supportive.
And naturally, if you're in that position, which you've been in so many times, you're going to pick someone, if it's a 50-50, you're going to pick someone you know really well, you've got a really good relationship with. It's not favouritism, it's human nature, isn't it? It's practical.
Well, listen, that's for the future. Flats, you're going back to domestic rugby, back to the Premiership. You've done a little bit on stick to rugby. So
it's been a good ride. It's been a good ride.
We've got a special gift for him.
Have we?
Good luck to you.
What have we got for him?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Another special gift.
Listen,
no budget.
I'm just,
Been great.
I'm just
Really good.
conscious. We haven't talked about any Bath players being selected. Brilliant. Even though you've tried to shoehorn a few. We haven't talked about England very much. Katie, England won against Italy. Obviously, a different change in mindset from what happened previously.
I think overall, watching it was better, wasn't it? I think the attack and shape. I think I've got to admit, for me personally, not just kicking on first phase was nice. I thought we tried to move backfields around. We threw the ball to the edge. We looked how well Slightholm and Freeman went out wide. We looked like we'd found a little bit more of our attacking identity.
Interestingly, Steve Borthwick was your coach on the Lions tour, one of your assistant coaches. I remember hearing a story about you having a selection meeting, and obviously Steve had turned up with his clipboard and all ready for the thing. He said, "Get yourself a pint, we're having a selection meeting." He's a student of the game, I think. He's an absolute professor, and everything he's obsessed with the detail. But you need that balance between being able to relax and let your players relax as well and have a bit of fun. You know what I think?
You got to find that balance there, and not just with the players, but with the staff. And how do you build those relationships and stuff? Those are the things that I think are important within a team, within an environment. And probably in the weekend with watching England, it was the first time I thought, they're just starting to make a little bit of progress in terms of where they're going. But I think there's still the depth in England. I think I wouldn't rule Spencer out as a chance of making the Lions as a 9.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot. A lot will go into the last round. I'm going to go round just not with individual match predictions, but predictions to win the championship. Obviously, you might have to eat a bit of humble pie over that side of the.
We've done it. I think we've
said
nailed
France
it.
from the start. I actually said Irish Grand Slam. Anyway, France, I reckon.
France now.
My 20 euros go on France now, I reckon.
Okay.
Bonus points.
100%.
France, France going to
we
win.
said everyone would lose one game at least, and France would win on points difference. Gats, there is one game that we can't ignore, which is Wales against England. The atmosphere, regardless of whatever state the two sides are in, will be electric. There'll be plenty of fans pouring through Gatland's Gate. Will you be going to the game, or will you?
No.
Do you want to go to the game? I've got a +1 if you fancy it.
He's doing a pitch walk, mate. He's doing a pitch walk.
I'll be your Eastern European close protection.
Getting the old blazer out. He's back.
Could it be the 2000 and was it 30 points to 3 when England were going for the title? Could it be one of those games again?
Well, as well as England played against Italy, I can't say hand on heart that they will go there and win. Yet.
No, it's a big game. I don't think, ironically, having in recent years played against England, they're not a team you go in fearing. You're not fearing the physicality that they'll bring or the dominance in certain areas that they'll bring. So I think you can have some. You got some of that self-belief and confidence, and obviously the crowd gets them behind you, and that. I really hope they go and give a really good performance.